In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you what it's really like to live in the fifth dimension. This is going to be something that is more practical and also something that you know you can embody right now in the present moment. So I think it has the potential to change your life. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you what it practically looks like and what it's really like to live in what is called a fifth dimensional level of consciousness. Now right now on the planet, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, you've heard other teachers or maybe read books about it, but right now on the planet what's happening is, it's kind of windy outside. Right now what is happening is we are moving from what is called a third dimensional level of consciousness into a fourth or a fifth dimension level of consciousness. Now we get a little bit tricky with dimensions because some people say that we live right now in 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. So some people would say that we already live in the 4th dimension. However, in general, these are just kind of terms. The way that I would think about it or explain it to you is that prior on the planet, and especially the last thousands of years, we've lived primarily in what is called a 3D level of consciousness. Think of it like duality. There is good, bad, light, dark. There is left brain, right brain, up, down. We're identified with the opposites or identified with this polarization. And what happens is a lot of what we learn in 3D has to do with power structure. Has to do with think of it like the third chakra is the solar plexus. In a way, the third dimension is also very similar to the third chakra, which is power. You may notice that on the planet there's a certain level of control, whether it's through the media or through certain types of government structures or organizations. And a lot of that has to do with the time on the planet of that level of control. Now, what happens is every such period of time, there will be this upgrade in energy where we move from, in a way, like the third dimension or that of duality, good, bad, light, dark, into that of a higher level, and that higher level is a transcendence of that. So this would mean that we would go from more of this control, the third dimension type identification, that of good, bad, light, dark, and identifying, think of it like left eye, right eye. We're identified with left brain, right brain, logic, creative mind. And what we do is we move into a higher level. You could think of that like the third eye. We move that into a observation point, and we start to more so connect with what is called our higher self. We stop just identifying with our avatar body. A lot of honestly what's been happening in this third dimensional reality is people just identify so much with their avatar. This is an avatar because at a higher state of consciousness, you are unconditional love and bliss. You exist in higher states of consciousness right now. You just might not remember it. And what happens is you start to remember this. And as you remember who you really are, that you are an infinite spiritual being living a temporary human experience, you stop identifying so much with that of the avatar. Just that we're conditioned growing up because of that level of control to believe that this is all that we are. We limit ourselves and we play very small and we identify with the thought process. We think the thoughts are who we are when in actuality they're not. But right now what we're doing is we're transcending this. We're transcending to a higher state of consciousness. So whereas the old power structure is more about control, keeping people kind of in the autopilot mind. Most people, if you look around in general in society, they're just completely in the autopilot mind. That was me too. I was constantly just being at the effect of everything that was happening. I was caring so much about what other people thought. I identified with my avatar body. I was like, oh, I have ADHD. I can't focus. This is who I am. I need this in order to feel happy. I need to either smoke weed or drink and all these things. And I identified so much with it because of the social conditioning and just really just being an autopilot, being at the effect of everything in life. And what happens is eventually that a lot of times will cause pressure. That pressure then a lot of times will lead to a spiritual awakening. And that spiritual awakening is where you realize that you are so much more than the avatar body. You are so much more than the labels. You are so much more than the thought processes. And the more that you realize that is the more you wake up to these higher states of consciousness. So I went through my awakening back in 2012, and there was this kind of this misunderstanding as well. And I was part of it as well, to be honest with you. This is going to be sounding a little bit weird. I understand that this will sound a little bit weird what I'm about to tell you. But in general, there were so many people that woke up in 2012 And when you're waking up, you're realizing that there's so much more to reality. However, what happens is when you go through this spiritual awakening process, you'll get these messages. You'll get these symbolic metaphors showing you what's happening on the planet. And because of the end of a last era, which was up until 2012, and then the start of a new era, which is like 2012 and beyond, there's this like new level paradigm of higher vibrational energy. Maybe you feel it. Do you feel like time has been going by much quicker? The perception of it? Do you feel like the vibrations been increasing? Maybe you feel like, and you see that there's been things that have been brought up for you. I know even for me in this last month, there's been so much increase of vibration that it's bringing up all of this stuff within me that hasn't been integrated yet. I'm talking about like things from the past, things that happened when I was 5 years old or 8 years old or 13 years old. And these memories are like holding me back, and they're coming up to the surface for me to deal with right now, because as I raise my vibration, I'm coming out of it. So sometimes people think that when they go through negative things, it's like, oh, I'm still in the 3D level of consciousness. Well, you're processing things, and it's a part of the process, so it's okay. Let it be there. I've been going through this for about 2 months now, and it's, I mean, in general, I'm sure much grander period of time, but intensely these last 2 months, because I've been intending to increase my frequency, and with that, it's been bringing up things. So in general, what happens is you go through a spiritual awakening, you realize that you're so much more, and in 2012, literally thought that there was going to be some shift in consciousness where like we go to like a different place or something like that. And that was a time when I felt very ostracized. I felt like, thinking something that dramatic is going to happen, it kind of detaches you from the normal thought processes of society, because most people are in the autopilot mind. And sometimes when you go through a spiritual awakening, you get these downloads, you get this information that you think is sometimes very literal. It's like some people will read certain books and they'll think that everything, all these metaphors and parables or ways of learning things are all very literal, when a lot of times they're just metaphors. And there was a metaphor, I just knew that at a higher state of consciousness, I was here to help other people. And I think you are too if you're watching this video, because you wouldn't perceive of this video if you weren't actually in the vibrational resonance with it. And when you become aware of this, it changes your life in many ways, because then you immediately realize there's so much more. You realize that we are going through this shift in consciousness, and then you start to focus on this fifth dimensional state of awareness. And this fifth dimensional state of awareness is kind of like you merging with your higher self, understanding that you are divine, that you are a piece of source energy, understanding that there's so much more to reality than what we perceive through our five senses. And that for many people, because you become so excited about it too. I remember when I went through my spiritual awakening in 2012, I remember I was just listening to the music the other day from Enigma. If you guys have heard of Enigma, there's a song that I used to listen to when I went through my spiritual awakening. When listening to it, it like woke me up and reminded me of the feeling, kind of like nostalgia, but like the feeling that I had back when I had my spiritual awakening, a very expansive type feeling. And a lot of memories were coming up from that time of my life. And I remembered how, in a way, it was kind of lonely, because I was the only one in my friend group or even family that went through this spiritual awakening. And me going through it triggered some other people in my family going through a spiritual awakening, like my mom and my brothers and my sisters. However, going through it, you begin to feel kind of ostracized. And you begin to feel kind of like, why is this happening to me and not everyone else? And the reason it's happening is because some of us are going through it first, because then we're able to help other people go through it as well. Like I went through it in 2012, and I went through this period of where I was kind of really diving into all this information. And then I went through a period of integration for like 4 or 5 years where I had a job and everything. And, I was still very much in the 3D world, but I was able to bring through a new level of awareness and do a lot of research. And then it got to the point to where, of course, now I'm on YouTube and I do this full time and I love sharing these ideas. However, that was a process for me. And what happened, what I learned is that in this process of fifth dimensional state of consciousness, it is about embodying it right here, right now. It's not about us leaving and ascending to a new level of consciousness where it's separate from Earth. We're meant in this life to wake up here and to help other people wake up as well. So sometimes there's this big escape thing. And even now there's this thing called the event that people talk about, where this event where all of this money is going to come in and be redistributed and all of this stuff. And I'm not saying that, that's impossible. What I'm saying though is it's not about waiting. It's about being it right now. Fifth dimensional state of awareness is available and is an option right now in the present moment. And I want to explain to you a little bit what that's like, because I tap into it. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm my higher self and I'm an enlightened being. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is I embody a high vibration because I've embodied it, and I'm really doing what I love, and I understand the vibrational mechanism of what's happening. First off, the biggest misconception with fifth dimensional state of consciousness is thinking that it's an actual place. It is not a place. Fifth dimensional state of consciousness is when you transcend out of the 3D, third dimensional state of consciousness, which is the state of consciousness of duality, left brain, right brain, being identified with the mind, being identified with the ego. When you realize that that is just one level of consciousness, but that you can go to a higher level of consciousness where you observe your thoughts, where you have this connection to a higher aspect of yourself that goes beyond just the 3D physical avatar body that we identify with our whole life because we're in autopilot mind. When we realize that, we start to expand our horizons. We start to realize that there's more to life than that of identification with this reality, and we start to open up new potentials, and that's a very expansive feeling. And one of the best ways you do that is through living through your passion, knowing that it's here for you now. People externalize their happiness when they say, I'm going to get it and accomplish something, then I'll be happy. Once I get to the fifth dimension, then I can live in unconditional love. This right here, right now, is about embodying it right now. I used to have a job working at Barney's, New York, selling women's shoes. I worked there for 5 years. I was going to make the transition into doing YouTube full time. And every day I went in for the last 2 months I was there, all I was doing was thinking about what kind of videos could I make? What could I do? I was walking around, it was slow, it was a higher price point, so it's like you'd only help a couple people a day, but you would, that was the idea, it wasn't very busy. So I'd be walking around like I could be making a video, I could be doing this. But what I decided to do is at a certain point I said, you know what? I'm going to let this be a spiritual practice for me. I'm going to actually be present while I'm here. And then when I go home, I'll make my videos and be going full time on YouTube. But I'm going to be present right here, right now. And by being present then, time went by faster. I made more money because it was a commission job and I was more present to the moment. But also I felt happier in the moment. You see, when we externalize happiness, and when we say, once I do something else or get somewhere else, then I'll be happy, we are dispersing our own energy and letting go of the higher vibrational states of consciousness that are available to us right now. Fifth dimensional state of consciousness is here. It is happening now. And it is about understanding who you really are. You are unconditional love and bliss. Anything that is of our lower vibration comes from an identification. Comes from an identification with form, with ego, an identification with the lower state of consciousness or lower state of emotion. And when you observe it, you start to let that go. Observation is where the power is. Observing. In the observation itself of 3D is where the power is. Sometimes people will say to me, oh, well, there's got to be these techniques and all of this other stuff to transform our lives. It really is as simple as awareness. Become aware of the beliefs you have. Become aware of the thoughts you're having. Become aware of the attachments you have. And in the awareness is the choice. Do I want to keep living in the autopilot? Do I want to keep the 3D level of consciousness going? And the fifth dimension is about living in the moment. All time exists is now. All time exists here and now. Time, quote unquote, time is flying by right now because it's all happening now. We don't actually experience the future, we experience now. The past we think of is in the past. It happened now, it's just that our memory may recall it, but it all happened now. The future will never come, because by the time the future gets here, it's now. Now is all that exists. The fifth dimension is about being here now. And by understanding that you can choose to embody those states of unconditional love and bliss. One of the biggest epiphanies for me was I had a lot of attachment to blame. And blaming other people for the pain I went through as a kid because I had an abusive ex-stepmom. And because of that, I blamed her for my feelings of unworthiness and for the pain I went through. Why did I have to go through all that? That was my perspective. But here's the thing. When you start to tap into the fifth dimensional state of consciousness, you realize that it happened for a reason. That led me to my spiritual awakening because it caused a lot of pain. And I'm very grateful for it. And at the same time, when you realize that we're all connected, I can then also see that she is playing out a pattern of unconsciousness from a way she was treated when she was a kid. She's just playing out a pattern. And when you have that awareness, it's very easy to forgive because you see that hurt people hurt people. In the same way, only healed people can heal people. You have to heal yourself to be in the fifth dimension, which is here right now. We really are moving from a level of attachment to war and all of these perspectives into that of unconditional love and bliss. That is going to and will be the direction that our society is moving into. You may look around and say, well, there's a lot of negative stuff happening. It's the news, the media. Like I said, stuff's going to fall apart for new things to come in. And I'm not saying that it's going to be snap our fingers and it's like heaven on earth. But we're moving in that direction of understanding the connection between all of us. If you knew that you were connected to someone else, would you hurt that other person? If you knew that they were another version of you? You wouldn't, because you know that they're connected. There's so much more to reality than we can imagine. We have higher states of consciousness that are existed to different races. Whoa, it's a big statement, right? Different races, I'm not just talking about on Earth. I'm talking about interdimensionally. We are connected to higher dimensional beings that we naturally are. Our higher self is one of them. We can be as afraid of it as we want of them, but we're just afraid because we're uncertain of it. But you are of this super high vibration. You've descended your vibration to this reality because one of the things about this reality is we forget who we are. We forget who we are so that we can remember who we are. And right now on the planet, we are remembering who we are. That's the fifth dimension. As we remember who we are, you're going to remember and you're going to see things from your past that no longer serve you. You're going to have the option to let things go that aren't serving you anymore. And as you let these things go, your vibration will naturally begin to raise. And you'll start to feel in those higher states of consciousness. You have to heal yourself though. You have to heal yourself. And by healing yourself, you let go of those lower vibrational states. You start to be who you really are meant to be. So, begin to see ways that you can develop this fifth dimensional state of consciousness by understanding that it's a choice. It really is a choice. It's as simple as that. Choose to engage in the present moment. Choose to engage with your passions. There's one piece I can give you for a fifth dimensional state of consciousness is to be doing what you love. Do what your passion is. Set the intention to figure out what it is. Set intentions, and at the same time, do your passion. High vibrational energy. When I make videos right now, I'm in a high vibrational energy. I feel like I'm in flow state. I am in a flow state. And you could be in that too by finding out what you're passionate about. In that high vibrational state, then you love easier. It's easier to love people. And in that high vibrational state, you're more likely to meet someone that's also in a high vibrational state that resonates with you. Friends, romantic partner, whatever that is for you. You will meet someone that's in a similar vibration as you because you're in your core frequency. The fifth dimension is about embodying love, passion, and who you really are, transcending duality, transcending the autopilot mind, and becoming who you're really meant to be. So that's what the fifth dimension is. If you want me to do more videos on this, let me know. If you could comment below, let me know what you thought of this video. I'm starting to do more esoteric concepts like this, making them relatable and practical at the same time. Also, something else I'll be doing is below, you will see in the top of the description box one of the most powerful meditations I've ever created. Let's do it for 21 days to heal yourself, to feel whole and complete, and to heal past patterns. When you complete the past, you no longer have to repeat it. That'll help you to let go of the third dimensional state of consciousness. It's absolutely free. You just click on it. It's a YouTube video. Listen to it for 21 days. It'll change your life. Also, I'll be doing more live Q&As on Instagram. So if you would like to ask me questions, if you would like to also, I post daily content there as well. Plus, I show a lot of behind the scenes of my life. If you want to follow me there, you'll see right here is the Instagram handle plug thing, you know. Other than that, I want to thank you for being here. If you could also like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, share it, and show other people, hey man, it's time to transcend into the fifth dimension, let people know. Other than that, I'll see you on the next video. Peace, much love, and namaste.